Hello, my sunrise. Welcome back. This will be chapter 2 of I'll Hold You Close by Gapple. I'm still not sure if I'm saying your name right, but yeah. Some small notes for this chapter. There are small mentions of self-harm to escape chains. If you don't want to listen to that, I will tell you when it happens and you can skip. I don't know exactly when that's gonna be, but I will something. Yeah. Anyway, let's get into this. Ari has been visiting Shota fairly regularly. From what he can tell, never when the other aliens are here, and never even close to tests, but regularly regardless. They talk, and Shota grabs on common, as Ari calls the language, has gotten better. He has also confirmed that Ari is indeed a child, which does not explain a lot. But she gets upset when he asks too many questions, so he makes sure not to. She's sitting next to him now, leaning onto Shota's side. He can feel her tangled fur against his arm. And look. 3, 2, 1. It took a few minutes for Ari to be comfortable to come near Shota, just like it took a while for him to be okay with the thought of her touching him. But they've made progress. Shota hums under his breath and lets Ari relax into him. Then things go wrong. Ari whimpers next to him, pressing herself more into his side. There's a moment of silence before alarms beep. Not as blaring as they would have been on Earth, but still noticeable. He curses under his breath before turning to Ari, forcing his voice to stay calm, soothing. He is an underground hero. He can use his training. Ari, what's happening? He can feel her shaking form pressed into his side. Shota waits as she takes time to answer. He needs to be patient. It's dark. The lights went out, and now they're really, really low and red. I can't see. She breaks off into a wail, and Shota curses in his head once more. Something must have happened to the electricity of the ship for the lights to be going off like this. Maybe it's a backup generator running? Fuck, things would be so much easier if he could see. He takes a breath. Ari, I need you to do something. I need to see. Ari freezes. Shota asked her to take off his blindfold exactly once, but she immediately declined it. She told him someone was always watching. She told him someone was always watching the cameras, and she would get in trouble for it. Shota doesn't want to put her in danger, so he dropped the topic. Still, he needs to see. Maybe he can even get out of his chains once he can actually see them. Ari still sits frozen. Then, when she answers, her voice is quiet, panicked. I'll get in trouble, I can't. Shota hushes her. He hates putting this on her, but he really needs to see. If he's lucky, this is his chance to get out. He'll take Ari with him. This is a chance for both of them. He won't see, and I'll protect you. If I can see, I can protect you better. Okay? Please? He winces. If he knew more common, he could maybe reassure her more. But then again, he was never good at talking, even in Japanese. Ari hesitates before she leans forward. She can tell her hands on his face as she carefully removes the blindfold. She's shaking. He hums and hopes that comforting her. She sniffles but keeps moving, loosening the tie holding the blindfold in place and taking it off carefully. Shota has to close his eyes, just getting used to the feeling of air against his eyelashes again. He still smiles at her. Thank you. You did good. When he blinks his eyes open, even the low light of which he's now sure is a backup power generator, almost blinds him. He refuses to close his eyes, instead squinting into the room. Quickly, his eyes land on Eri. She is small, but he already knew that. Her fur is tangled red by the light, but it must almost be silver normally. There are horns just barely protruding out of her forehead. Shota smiles, and she smiles back, showing flattened teeth. Herbivore then. She's still shaking, but there's nothing Shota can do for that now. Instead, he focuses on where his arms are bound. The chains don't look hard to break, now that he can actually see them, especially with the alarms causing adrenaline to pump through his veins. A single look at Eri, still scared and looking at him with two wide eyes. This is all it takes for his hero instinct to take over. This is the part where the self-harm comes in. If you want to skip past it, it's not too long, it's only like 2 paragraphs, so yeah. Shida stares at the chains before another distressed noise from Eri gets him moving. Without hesitation, he hits his left wrist against the wall in a way that makes the chains shift, and pain rushes through his arms. A few more times and it's ready. With a swift motion, he hits the bottom of his thumbs against the wall, biting his cheeks to suppress a scream. There's blood in his mouth as he pulls his hands out, quickly moving into his right side. Now, with one hand free, it's easier to move the chains into the right position and break his own thumb. It's a cleaner break, too. It hurts less. He spits blood onto the floor as he pulls his arm loose, taking a moment to rub his wrists against each other to soothe out the flaring pain from moving them after not being able to for so long. That was the end of that self-harm. Yeah. With his arms now free, Shota turns to Eri, ignoring the pain in his hands as he reaches for her. Eri barely hesitates before she slams into his chest. Shota hisses in pain, but wraps his arms around her nevertheless, careful not to put pressure on his thumbs. She's still trembling, but he does his best to soothe her. Even as he looks around the room, nothing changed except for the lighting. There's a dim red, easier on his eyes than the blaring white they were before he was blindfolded, especially with how used to the darkness his eyes are now. Then there are footsteps from outside the cell, the clicking claws similar to the bird-like alien sound, but different. Shida doesn't recognize the pace from the ones that usually come from food, or even for experiments. He immediately gets his feet under him, staying crouched low on the ground when his legs immediately start shaking. Right, he hasn't had the opportunity to move a lot lately. Still, he carefully but quickly loosens Eri's hold on his shirt and presses her behind him, facing the front of the cell. Eri whines, but just clings to Shota's shirt. He misses his capture scarf, his combat boots and long-sleeve shirt with metal thread woven into it. All of it would have given him the upper hand in a fight, and all of it would have been removed a long time ago. Still, he can fight. He can protect Eri and himself. The door of the cell is open, but if it was closed, he could see the alien approaching through the bars of the cell. They're feathered, but in a bright yellow instead of muted colors the aliens of the ship belong to have. Their feathers are longer, too, with actual wings instead of weirdly shaped arms. There are long talons instead of hands on the ends of both wings. They look similar to bird mutations on Earth that Shota chest aches. Still, Shota bares his teeth in an animalistic threat display. Though that always seemed to work best with aliens. His quirk activates on instincts, his hair raising around his head, even with his eyes almost immediately starting to ache from the strain. Fuck. That was the end of chapter 2. I hope you all enjoyed, and I will see you all next time.